Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Marvin Hooker. I am an account director here at AC&C Marketing, and I'm also the director for our digital marketing department. For those of you who had an opportunity to join the last two webinars, thank you guys so much for taking the time. I'll just kind of briefly go over some of the things that stood out to me and that kind of align with what I want to talk about today as well. So the first webinar was hosted by our CEO, Ali Cox, and she kind of talked about how your brand can come out on top, focusing primarily on strategy and what we can do during this time of COVID-19. And then that was followed by Kelly Mantell, our VP of Strategy, who then focused on kind of how to maintain e-commerce sales. And he primarily focused on messaging and communication with your clients and people who may become new clients because of this pandemic and are able to order through online outlets. And one of the major things that stuck out to me out of both of those, and I think the theme across all three of these webinars, is during this time, perfection is not the thing that is important, because we're all just trying to figure out life together. It's really about the message that you're putting out there to your customers and to your consumers, and just letting them know that you're trying to manage everything during this time just like they are, that it's very uncertain and we're kind of falling into this new normal. And so that was one thing that really stuck out to me, especially as we move into today's webinar talking about digital advertising. I really kind of wanted to start with that, because whenever we create ads, I think the feeling is that everything always needs to be perfect before we put that out. And I think right now we really just need to focus on the message that we're putting out and letting people know that we're there for them, and we're working our hardest to make sure that there's an outlet for them to purchase the things that they like to purchase. So today I'm going to get a little bit more into the tactical things and talk to you about digital advertising when it comes to social media. Right now we know most people are at home, they're on social media, they're online looking for different ways to purchase things online. And here in the state of California, we've really been hearing that over the next 2 weeks, we're going to see a spike. And so thinking of how that falls into demand, I think most people are really going to be looking to those online outlets to have things delivered, so they're contactless, and so they don't have to leave their houses if not absolutely necessary. So we want to make sure that we can try and capture some of this demand. In order to do that, I think social media is kind of the best and quickest way to start, especially with the time that we have today and being cognizant of that. There are a few platforms in terms of social media that you can do advertising on, being Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. But today I'm specifically going to focus on Instagram and Facebook, because through one platform, you can create ads for both of those channels. So there's two specific ways that you can do that. You can either just put out a post like normal and boost it, or you can kind of go in the back end of Facebook Business Manager and create your own ads. So I'm going to show you kind of both options to do that. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And if at all during this time while I'm going through this, please feel free to type in the chat if you have a question and I'll answer it. But we'll also have time at the end for questions and answers. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you. Okay, so first we're going to start here. I have our AC&C marketing page pulled up, and this is a post that we put out recently about our COVID-19 survival webinar series. So when I mentioned that the first, and I think I would say the simplest option, is that you can just boost posts, that would be this button right here, where you can click boost post, and then you'll have a few different options for targeting, your budget, placements. I won't go into too much detail here on this because it also happens within our ad manager. But this is the simple and quickest way to kind of get that going. You set how many days you want it for, the budget that you would like, and it'll kind of give you a brief synopsis of how much you'll spend over the amount of days that you have until when it ends, and then you can click boost, and then you're done. That is the simplest way to do it. The second way is if you go to your business manager, and so that happens here. If you just type business.facebook.com, it'll take you to your business manager, which looks a little bit like this. If you don't have one, it's very easy to set up. They have tutorials online through Facebook that take you step by step how to set it up, and it's super simple, especially if you already have a business page. So then what you would do is you would probably create an ad account. So as an agency, we oversee a few different accounts. So I'm going to go ahead and take you into the AC&C marketing account. And then once you get in here, as this loads, you'll click Create Campaign, this big green button. If you have been in Facebook Business Manager before, this is where all of your past ads will show up. If you've ever just boosted a post, it'll also show in here, kind of like it says post, and it shows you what that is. So all of your advertising metrics, this is where you'll be able to find it. So we're gonna go ahead and click Create. I went ahead and kind of made a sample of this yesterday just for sake of time so we can make sure we can get through everything in this 30 minutes. So it'll take you to a page like this when you create your campaign. First and foremost, you'll want to set the objective for your campaign, and you have all of these different options: brand awareness, traffic to your website, and I think for today's webinar, I'm going to focus here on conversions because we want to make sure people are purchasing and we count a conversion as a purchase. There are different options that you can set up on what you want to count your conversion as, and I'll show you that a little bit later. Next, we'll move on to naming the campaign. So here I have COVID-19 webinar test, and I always like to add the date here. So that way, if you're ever going back and looking like, when did I run that ad? Or I remember that I ran something in April of 2018, but I don't exactly remember what it was. That way, it's easier for you to find through that naming conjecture. Next here is where you can create an A/B test. Briefly, for those who don't know, an A/B test is essentially something where, for example, you can put the same image on two different ads with two different types of messaging. So I think right now, especially with everything that's going on, messaging and tone are very important. So you could test this between something that you would normally put up versus messaging that says, you know, during this time, we're doing what we can to bring you free shipping or to bring you online delivery, which we've never done before, and see which of those performs better. And it'll kind of optimize and test those each individually and provide you metrics on which ones performs best. Next, you'll move into your budget, and then you'll choose a budget. So you can either select a daily budget or a lifetime budget. A daily budget will continue until you stop it, and then a lifetime budget will just make sure that this ad or this campaign doesn't spend more than, you know, $500 or whatever amount that you put. When you're in here, you'll have this button to click Show More Options. And the one thing that I wanted to point out here is you have ad scheduling. So you can either click Run Ads at all time, or you can run ads on a schedule. So I have Run Ads on a schedule so that I can show you what that option looks like when we move into this. So then you would click Continue. This will then take you to what's called an ad set name, and you can set multiple ad sets. An ad set is essentially if you're going to be targeting different types of demographics. So within one ad set, you can say, I'm going to target people between the ages of 18 and 25, and so I can make sure I can control that messaging to them. Or you can say another ad set is I'm going to target people in Canada between the ages of 35 and 60, and that would be a little bit different messaging. So this is your opportunity to create those different ad sets, and you can name them. That way you know exactly what the target is. Then you'll move into destination, you know, where you're wanting them to go. So I have a website. Again, like I mentioned, you have the conversions. Here is your objective and optimization. And here are the different options of, you know, what you can count a conversion as. And so for these purposes, I'm going with purchase. Next, I'm going to skip down here to offer. An offer is something that you can create specifically for this advertising. And so we'll go ahead and create a sample offer. For example, during this time, you could say free shipping or online delivery. Tell people what this offer is about. So offering free shipping during the month of April, since this is, we know right now when everybody's going to be home. You can send an end date for that. So since we're talking about April, we can say until April 30th at 11:59 p.m. If this is an online only, then you could put the online offer URL that would link them to where it's going. If you have, software where you can develop a code for this, you can offer that. And then you can say the total number of offers available. And so that way they know once it's redeemed, then it's redeemed. Terms and conditions, for example, if you say this is only applicable to people in the United States, you can write only for US residents. And that's kind of where you have your disclaimer for that. And then you would click create. For these purposes, I'm not going to have this on because it kind of doesn't allow you to do some other things like advertising on Instagram. So next, we're going to move into the audience. So if you have used Facebook Business Manager before, you probably have a saved audience that you can use. And so since we're going to assume that this is people's first time, this is where you'll create a new audience. So first, you'll do your locations. So you can target this as easy as the city. You can target zip codes. You can add a radius within that. If you want to target all of the United States, you have that option. And so this can get very detailed into what you're looking for. So you'll set your locations here. You can set age demographics. So for example, if you're selling wine, we know that that's 21 and over. So you can change this age demographic to be 21 and up. If you feel like people over the ages of 65 are not your customer, you can bring that down. But there's a lot of different options for you here, and it's by each individual number. And so you can really tailor that to be what you want it to be. Next, we're going to move on to genders. You can set that. Detailed target audience is where you can add different interests. And so the product that we're looking at right now is rice. So we could say healthy eating, healthy diets. We could say brown rice could be an interest. If you were doing wine, you of course could add wine. We can say non-GMO. So these are going to target people who fall into this category or have these interests for the product. I think I have a question. Location selection within ads. What is that based on? The actual GPS location of the users at the time or some information? Great question, Bonnie. Thank you. So the location is for people who are in that location so that their settings are set to that location. So her question was, is it the actual GPS location of that user or some information from their profile? So it's going to be a combination of both. For example, I've set ads before, and I know that the target audience is the Central Valley location. And so since that's where I spend most of my time, even when I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area for the day, I may still see some of those advertisements. So you're going to be targeting people within that specific location, but let's say they spend all of their time there, or you can change your options here. People living or recently in this location, just people living in the location, people recently living, or people traveling. So Bonnie, there's where you can set kind of the options for that. Thank you for that question. Languages, we can set connection types. I wanted to point this out as well. So for example, if you know that your consumers who already like your page are going to see this post or see this ad, then you might want to exclude people who like your page because you don't want to be paying extra for those clicks that they may be having if you already know that they're going to be a customer. You have different options to people who like your page if you want to set it just to them, or friends of people who like your page. If you wanted to set any of those location or connection options, and that would be under the Show More Options tab. And then I would recommend saving this audience at the end. The default here is to do automatic placements. And for those who don't know, Facebook also owns Instagram and WhatsApp. And so when you have automatic placements, it's going to advertise across all three of those platforms. So if that's not something that you want to do, I would recommend doing manual placements, and you can easily click, I don't want to have this on these three options. I just want to do it on Instagram, or I just want to have it on Facebook and Instagram, not through Messenger or audience networks. And then if you scroll down a little bit more, you have these options to specifically say, I made a graphic that is sized for stories, so I just want to show it on stories and not any of these places, or I don't want to show it in stories and I just want to show it in the feed. this is where you have all the options to kind of make those selections for yourself and for your ad. You can set start dates and end dates. Start date, I have started later for now, and an end date through the end of April. One thing that you can't do is retroactively go in and change the start date. Once it's started, but you can always go back in and pause it. Or you can set it for a future date, so it will be scheduled to start on that date. Moving down, this is what I wanted to show you. If you do choose an ad schedule, you can say, every day I want this to go between 6 a.m. and let's say 10 p.m. Or you can select different days or what have you. If not, then it'll show at any time of the day. Next, we'll jump over to the ad. And this is where you're going to be creating the specific ad that you want to show. So we're using Genji Mai. It's a rice client that we work with, brown rice. And so it'll show you which Facebook page it's going to say it's coming from. And then if you have a linked Instagram account, ours is Eat Genji Mai, then you can use that one. Or if you don't have one, you can choose what you can advertise on Instagram and choose what you want that name to be, even if you don't have an Instagram account and you just have a Facebook account. Then you'll choose your format, carousel, single image, or video, the type of media that you want. And so let's say we want to see what this looks like on the Instagram feed. So we would go ahead and add an image. And so I have an image here uploaded already. And so it'll show you a sample of what your post will look like. You'll add your primary text, which is kind of like the caption. So shop safely and get Genji Mai quick cooking brown rice delivered straight to your doorstep, available on Amazon. Here is where you can add any headlines. And so I'll jump to a view in Facebook. And so it'll show you kind of what those headlines are. So we could say free shipping. And it'll show you kind of the different options of where those will show up. So here, for example, you'll want to insert the website URL. So if you're linked through Amazon, you would add your Amazon link here, and then you can change what your display link is. So your Amazon link might be really long, something like this with a bunch of numbers and letters, but you don't think that looks great. So you'll just come down here and you can type amazon.com/genjimai or whatever your product may be. And that's what it'll show as part of the advertising, where they're going to get to. And then you have your call to action. So we would probably click shop now because we want people to purchase what our product is. And then if you have Facebook Pixel, this is where you can turn it on, and then you would click the confirm button. And that's kind of how you set up an ad. I know I moved through that a little bit quickly for sake of time today. And so I did want to kind of walk through that with everybody, give them an opportunity to see how to do it. This webinar will also be available on our YouTube channel, and we'll be sure to send out a recap email with the link to that in case you kind of want to walk through it a little bit slower. But for the sake of everybody's time today, I went a little bit quickly. And I just kind of want to conclude that each of these platforms, if you do set up an ad, is also kind of going to provide you with analytics that you can see how everything's performing, how much each click is costing you, the conversion rates that you're getting, and so much more. And so I would definitely recommend looking at that, seeing what your return on investment is. And then essentially you're also going to be driving people to your website. And so you're going to want to see how that's tracking. We like to use a free tool called Google Analytics. That's really easy to set up on your website as well. So I would definitely recommend doing that if you're going to be doing some digital advertising. That way you can kind of track what's happening there. And then last, one thing that I didn't have enough time to do here today, but I did just want to mention is product tagging. So within Facebook and Instagram, you can tag products if you have everything set up on the back end so that people don't even have to leave the app to purchase your item. And so the way that you do that is through setting up Instagram shopping or Facebook shopping. In the recap email, I have a couple of links available to you to kind of see how to set that up. And if you have your e-commerce store on Shopify or Magneto or some of these bigger platforms, then they automatically integrate with that. And if you don't, that's totally okay. They have something called Facebook Catalog Manager and Facebook Shop, where you can kind of manage inventory and put products in there for people to purchase. So I'll go ahead and open up the floor to questions if anybody has any. I hope I didn't move too quickly through everything, but I definitely hope there was something there for you. I saw there was a question here sent privately. I had a hard time how much boosting costs are, for example, when you show $2 a day. So Jay Rose is asking, how much do we recommend budget spending and for how long? I definitely think during this time, money may be tight for people. And so I would say something is better than nothing. If you're just going to boost a post, putting $25, $50 behind that post is definitely going to help you reach an audience that you weren't reaching before and could grow your impressions by a couple of thousand. So definitely I would recommend doing that. We were creating, on the back end, we were creating an ad. So that's something that we spent a little bit more time making sure we had a good product shot, thinking about the messaging. And so that's where you can put a little bit of a bigger budget if you wanted to. That way you can grow that audience a little bit more as well. Another private question here, social advertising versus Google advertising. What should I use at this point? I think right now, social advertising is kind of the place to be. Google is a great place, and we use it with a lot of our clients through digital advertising. It takes a little bit of time to optimize, so I think you're going to see a quicker return on investment and kind of a quicker impact through social advertising, because that's kind of where people are right now. They're online, they're on their social media accounts looking and seeing, the best brands and the brands that they like, what they're doing, and how, they can continue to support them through this time. You don't have to only send questions through the chat. You can also ask them if you want. I will go ahead and say that if you do need help with any digital advertising, our team is here to support you. In the recap email that you'll get, we have a few digital advertising packages that we're offering, different tiers depending on what you want to advertise, how many products you may want to advertise. So that we're more than happy to have that conversation. Please reach out to me. You can just reply to the email and we can set up a call to kind of review some of those packages and what might be the best options. Another question here, how long do you typically run an A/B test? I would say minimum, I would run it for 2 weeks. So you can really give it an opportunity to optimize, test both options, and then you can pause it at that point and look and see which is performing the best and decide how you would like to move forward. Another question here, how does advertising help your website SEO? Thank you for that question, that was good. So advertising helps your website SEO because it's going to be driving traffic to your website. And so right now, Google is kind of the master in SEO, and that's where people do most of their searches. And so the more people and the more activity you have going to your website, the more things that link back to your website, that is going to be able to increase your SEO and kind of move you up within the search results that fall in that same category of what you would be searched for. We've got just a couple more minutes here, so I'll leave it open for questions. Again, we have Facebook advertising versus Google. Talked a little bit about that. I think during this time, you're going to see more of an impact and quicker results, which I think is what everybody's looking for through social media advertising, and that would be my recommendation. A question here from Nick. How do I boost e-commerce sales if I'm just starting out on Facebook or Instagram and don't have a huge audience? Great question, thank you. So I think the way that this will work is that if say you're just creating a Facebook or Instagram account, or you just created it a couple months ago and your following isn't as big, this, instead of just posting something, putting a little bit of advertising dollars behind it will allow you to reach a bigger audience and maybe some of the types of people that are already following you. It'll put that out there to other people that are on Facebook and Instagram. So right now, when you're posting things, you're just reaching that audience that's following you or that likes your page. Through doing digital advertising, you can boost your e-commerce sales because it'll be reaching out to people who are similar to those or that fall within the demographic that you set, so that you'll be able to reach a little bit more people than just the people that follow or like your page. Thank you. Any more questions? I have one more question that came in. How do I know which social advertising platform is best for my business? So I think that's kind of a twofold question as well. You know, should you be on all the social media platforms or should you just be on a couple? I would say absolutely not. You do not need to be on every single social media platform. You should be where your customers are. So if you don't think your customers are on Twitter, I wouldn't be on Twitter. If you think that they're on Instagram more than they're on Facebook, that's where I would primarily focus some of your advertising on. So I think, again, to answer this question, which platform should I be advertising on? I think it depends on where your customers are. So if you're looking more to a younger generation, we know that's Instagram, and that's where you're going to want to find them. If it's a little bit older generation, then Facebook is probably where you would be wanting to sell. If your customers fall within both, then I would say both platforms would be a great option for you. And then I'll take this as the last question. It's 9:59. What if I want to advertise on Instagram but don't have an Instagram account? That's a really good question. So I kind of mentioned and breezed through it in the showing you guys how to set up the ad. So there is an option that if you just have a Facebook account and you don't have Instagram, that you can still advertise on Instagram, and you can set up, you know, what the profile picture and what the name of your business will appear as. So you do not have to have an Instagram profile in order to advertise on Instagram, just a Facebook profile. That was a great question, so thank you for that. One more, Google versus YouTube advertising. I think both are great options. Google does own YouTube, for those who don't know, and so you'll kind of manage all of that within the same platform, Google Ads. And I really just think it depends on what your goal is or what your objective. So if you're doing YouTube, it's going to be primarily video focused. If you have the ability to create a video, you know, something that you would see as an ad on YouTube, I would definitely recommend it. Video is the thing and the place to be right now. And then Google advertising would just be kind of within the search on Google and then display across the internet. So I kind of describe that as like billboards that you see on the highway. That's a particular ad space that you can find. And so what Google does is they have a display network across a variety of different websites. And then you can share your display ads through that. Okay, we just hit 10 o'clock, and to be respectful of everybody's time, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. Again, you'll be receiving a recap email this afternoon with links to some of the things that I talked about, as well as a link to this video, so it can walk you through again if you need. And again, please reach out if there's any assistance you guys need. We're more than happy to jump on a call or have a conversation about how you can make it through this time. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe and stay healthy.